The End of the World DVD and Blu Ray update, take 1. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Well, 2022's pretty much over, so hope you have had a Merry Christmas and all that bollocks. I've got a somewhat medium-sized DVD and Blu Ray update. This is about 2 months worth of stuff. Got a new phone for Christmas, so you might notice a difference in picture quality, and I'm going to try it with this phone, to see how the video comes up, and hopefully it looks okay. So we'll start off with the sole DVD I've got, and that is a box set. And this is the Alfred Hitchcock collection. This contains 4 of his films, so Rebecca, Notorious, Spellbound, and The Parody Case. I went on a bit of a Hitchcock binge like a month or so ago, so I've got quite a few Hitchcock films in this update. But yeah, these are the 4 films he did with David O. Selznick. These came out between 1940 and 1947. Anyway, and here are the discs. So here we have Rebecca, which was Hitchcock's first film he did in Hollywood. All his previous films were done in Britain. And also the only Hitchcock film to ever win Best Picture, which is kind of surprising if you think about it, considering just how massive Hitchcock's filmography is and how many iconic films were in that filmography. Only Rebecca ever won Best Picture, and in fact I don't even think Hitchcock himself ever won an Oscar. So that's another proof that the Oscars are a waste of time. Rebecca is okay. I'm not as big on it as a lot of people are. I think the plot is quite good for what it is, but it was just a bit boring, to be honest. It was a little bit too talky, a little bit too tell, don't show sort of stuff. But it's not terrible or anything like that. It's just not that great. Spellbound, which oddly the set has these out of order because Spellbound came out before Notorious. But yeah, Spellbound is really, really good, really underrated Hitchcock film. I would definitely recommend it. Notorious, this was probably out of the entire box set, this one's probably the one that I was most hyped to see. And it's very good, but I don't think it's as good as people make it out to be. I just wasn't as enamoured by it as a lot of other people are. I might need to watch it again, maybe my opinion might change, but it's still a good film, one with Cary Grant. And then we get to the Parodying Case, which is a bit crap. Thing is, Hitchcock didn't really have that much control over it. It was pretty much Selznick, and that's, I believe, Hitchcock and Selznick were often clashing during their collaborations. So, and the producer had a lot more influence than the director did, so Hitchcock wasn't that big on it. And as a film on its own, you can kind of tell it's a bit half-arsed. The premise is okay, but it just wasn't intriguing at all, and it was a bit boring as well. But the thing is, it was very much just kind of like a fluke in Hitchcock's filmography, because after Parodying Case, he stopped working with Selznick, and then the film he did after Parodying Case was Rope, which in my view is one of his best films. So yeah. Next up, we've got all the Blu-rays. So we've got another Hitchcock film, and this is The Lodger, or The Lodger, A Story of the London Fog. This is a silent film from 1927. The first silent film I ever actually picked up into the collection. I've seen a couple of silent films, but I've not seen that many. I really need to watch more. And I mean, most of them are on YouTube, so I don't really have an excuse. But yeah, this is a phenomenal film. I guess if you looked at it like without the proper context, it could seem a bit, I don't know, a bit more basic when compared to many of Hitchcock's later films. But it's still a really good film. It's considered Hitchcock's first proper film. It's not his first film here because he did quite a few shorts prior. His first proper feature film was Pleasure Garden from 1925. And then the film he did afterwards was The Mountain Eagle, which is at the moment a lost film. So it's Hitchcock's only lost feature film. A lot of his short films are lost, but that's his only feature film, which is not half bad, considering just how massive Hitchcock's filmography is. Only to have one of his films go missing, it's not too bad. But yeah, this is the Blu-ray from Network. Really nice edition, really nicely restored and stuff. Anyway, here are the discs. So here we have the Blu-ray, and then we have the soundtrack on 2 discs, on 2 CDs. I think most people generally know this, but when they used to show silent films, before talkies came along, they would normally have somebody playing music in the background, usually like an entire orchestra or, I don't know, just some bloke on a piano. Because obviously you wouldn't be just sat in the cinema, like, in drowsy silence. But, yep, this includes a newly composed score by Nitin Swahini, I think. I've probably butchered that name really badly. And it's a really good score, but there's some aspects of it which don't quite work for me. Mainly, there's 2 short bits in the film where they have lyrics, which, to be honest, just kind of take me out of the movie a bit. And just why did you put lyrics in? I mean, it just doesn't sound right. And it's fine when it's just the score, and you let the pictures tell the story. You don't need lyrics. But that's just a bit nitpicky, honestly. But this is still a really nice set. Anytime we just have a booklet. So yeah, that is the Lodger. A lot of Hitchcock films are released by Network. Like I know the original Man Who Knew Too Much and the original Lady Vanishes is on Network, so I'll get those at some point. Next Blu-ray we have is Near Dark. This is a vampire film from the late 80s. The best way I can describe this film is The Lost Boys played straight, because it sort of has a similar premise to The Lost Boys, where somebody's seduced into joining a cult of vampires and becomes a vampire. It's kind of like Lost Boys, but the thing is, Lost Boys is a comedy, whereas this isn't a comedy. It's played straight, and it's a very good film. It's not my favourite of the 80s vampire films. In fact, it's probably my least favourite. I prefer Lost Boys and Fright Night over it, but it's still a really good film. Stars Lance Henriksen as well, who you might know from Aliens and the TV series Millennium. Yeah, here's the disc, and here's a sticker for the Horror Vault. This is released by Studio Canal. Something I really don't like about this is the fact that Studio Canal kind of cheaped out with this reissue, because the film came out on Blu-ray back in 2009, released by Optimum, but that release is long out of print, and they've reissued it with this edition. And usually with Studio Canal, they usually do really good reissues of a lot of their older titles. What they've done with the John Carpenter range and stuff, and Blu-ray of Total Recall I've got is really good. They do proper new transfers, film full of extras and stuff. But they've just repacked the old Optimum Blu-ray, so what you get is no extras and a transfer which is a bit iffy. It's not an awful transfer, but it could have been better. It suffers a lot from DNR, which is something I really dislike in a Blu-ray transfer. It just ruins it. You can kind of tell when it's an early Blu-ray master because it has DNR. I don't know when it was when the studio decided to stop doing DNR, but it's really stupid when they do that. But it's not an awful transfer. And also, they've not even changed the cover. They've still got this fucking abysmal cover, which, to be honest, completely missells the film because it does look like a Twilight knockoff. It doesn't sell the film at all, other than maybe, the vampires at the bottom. I think I know the first Blu-ray came out like a year after Twilight came out, so I guess they would try to capitalise on it. But the thing is, this is nothing like Twilight, so why would they try and mislead people? I mean, the original poster, it's not a masterpiece, but it's a lot better than this cover, and I wish they'd kept the original poster artwork or even the older VHS artwork and so on. But still, it's still worth a watch, no doubt. Next up, we've got Catch Me If You Can with Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks, a Steven Spielberg film. This is one of the films I've not seen yet. I've heard really good things about it though. They show it on TV a lot. Based on true life events, based around Frank Abagnale. I think that's how you pronounce it. Who was a massive con artist during the 70s, I think. But yeah, I've heard it's really good, so I can't wait to give it a watch. Anyway, here's the disc. Just plain silver because Paramount cheap. Next up, we've got You're Only Supposed to Blow the Bloody Doors Off. And it is The Italian Job with Michael Caine. A lot of people don't know that. Terrible Michael Caine impression. Absolutely classic film. For some reason on ITV3, I think it is, ITV3 or ITV4, this seems to be the only film they ever seem to be showing at the moment. I guess it's the only film where they could get the rights to it, which is a bit annoying. It's gonna end. This is basically gonna turn into the film version of Only Fools and Horses, where that's all they seem to be showing. But yeah, it's still an absolutely classic film. They're a little bit cheeky with this cover because they advertise this as the 50th anniversary edition. Ooh, what are we going to get that's new? Answer, sweet fuck all. Because this is just a repack of the older 40th anniversary Blu-ray from 2009. So it has no new extras and the transfer is okay, but it does have some DNR as well. So, it's a bit annoying. But still, it's a really good film and the transfers are not awful, things considered. Next up, we've got a really, really depressing film next. And that is Fred's. If you're of a certain age, you know what this film is. This is a made-for-TV movie that was shown on the BBC in the mid-80s. And it's a phenomenal film. It's about... it came out during the Cold War and when there was the threat that we were going to get nuked. And what the film shows, it shows like what would happen, to people if the bomb actually did strike, and it shows, the build up to it, the immediate effects, and also what would happen to people and even generations 10 years down the line. But yeah, it's a very, very hard hitting film. It's not really a film for everyone. It's not a film to watch if you want just a piece of light entertainment. It's not that at all. It's really, really grim, but it's a really, really important film, and I think everyone should watch it. And especially nowadays, with this war in Ukraine going on and what that maniac Putin is going on about, a film like this could very much happen in real life. Even though nothing ever actually came of the Cold War, it's still scary to think that we could get nuked. And a couple of months back they took this off BritBox, because they didn't want to upset people, which kind of hilarious, because it kind of shows that this film still has the impact as these days. It's not really dated at all. But this is the nice remastered edition from Simply Media, which is a nice 2-disc set. Includes the film in both full screen and widescreen. I believe the widescreen version is director approved, but I'll probably watch this in full screen, because that's how it was shown on TV. I know there was a American film called The Day After, which actually was another TV movie which aired actually a year before this aired, and that stars Steve Guttenberg. It was directed by Nicholas Meyer, who I really like. I love Time After Time and the 2 Star Trek films he did. I've heard The Day After is okay, but the thing is, I found what a lot of people have said about it. I can't attest to this because I've never seen it, but what many people say is it kind of is a bit too optimistic. It kind of takes your hand and stuff and says it's going to be okay, it's going to be fine, we're going to get through this and stuff, which is really, really disingenuous, because in reality no one wins in a nuclear war. Everyone dies. Even if you don't immediately die, from the blast, you're going to die of radiation sickness, or I don't know, you might take your own life or something. But the fact that The Day After, is sort of saying it's okay, it's going to be fine stuff, is really disingenuous. And I'm sorry, to sound like I'm stereotyping or anything, but that kind of is like what American culture is like. American culture is a lot more optimistic than British culture, because Britain were just as miserable as the weather. I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all, but I've actually found a lot of the most depressing films I've seen actually have come from Britain. There aren't that many American films I can think of which have genuinely got me depressed, or genuinely unnerved me in the way that a lot of British films have. Although I believe Ronald Reagan actually saw The Day After when it was on TV, and that actually inspired him, to basically bring an end to the Cold War. So really, that film did a lot more good than Fred's did. But the thing is, Fred's is still an incredibly important film, and it beats you while you're down. It doesn't hold your hand. It doesn't give you any hope. It's just it just tells you as is. And it just tells you, you're going to die. Thank you very much for watching. It's really, really hard hitting, but it's really, really important. And it's a really, really good film as well. I'm surprised this was a TV movie, because this belongs in the cinema. It really is that good. But yeah, that is Fred's. Next up, we've got another 80s vampire film, and that is Fright Night with Chris Sarandon and Roddy McDowall, directed by Tom Holland, who, not the Spider-Man Tom Holland, the director Tom Holland, who also directed Child's Play, and also, like Child's Play, this stars Chris Sarandon. But yeah, this is a vampire film, of course. It's really, really good. Probably my favourite 80s vampire film. It's so much fun. Chris Sarandon is so great as the vampire. So on, and it's just generally got a lot of great performances and sort of great set pieces as well. Yep, here are the discs. There's Chris Sarandon. There's the Blu Ray disc. And there's the DVD. But yeah, that is Fright Night. And this is part by Eureka. This is not the Masters of Cinema, from the Masters of Cinema range. This is from the Eureka Classics range. The first non-Masters of Cinema release I've got from Eureka. But yeah. Next up, we've got John Carpenter film Christine, based on a Stephen King book. It's considered one of John Carpenter's lesser films because I believe John Carpenter didn't write the script, and he didn't really have that much control over it. And probably it is one of his lesser films, but it's still really, really good. I really do enjoy this film. The Killer Car movie. I believe this was written. The book was written. I believe the rights to the book was sold before it was even finished, or before it was even published. But yeah, this is the Indicator Blu Ray. This is just the standard edition. This is not the limited edition one, which goes for silly money. But I think all you get with the limited edition is a booklet and a DVD copy, so you're not really missing out on much. But yeah, here's the disc. And also, was it wrong that I was cheering the car on? Because most of the people the car was killing were people who actually deserved it. Like the bullies and so on. They deserve to die. I know I'm a sick fuck, but but still. And then finally, we've got 4 premium collection titles. 3 of these are Hitchcocks, but one of them is not a Hitchcock. And we'll start off with the one that isn't a Hitchcock, and this is Dolores Claiborne with Kathy Bates and Jennifer Jason Leigh. Again, based on a Stephen King book. I've not seen this film, but I've heard nothing but great things about it, so can't wait to give it a go. It's not based on a horror story. It's one of his few adaptations that weren't based on horrors, because Stephen King's most known as being, I think he is known as the master of horror, but there's a lot of his stories aren't horror, like Stand By Me, The Shawshank Redemption, and so on. Here's the back. It's the inside. Here's the disc. I think the premium sale's still going. I'm not sure what exactly HMV are doing with the premium collection at the moment, because there hasn't been a new one since April, I think, so nearly a year now. And I don't know whether or not they've just given up on the premium collection and they're just going to sell off all the remaining stock, or or they're just waiting for like more Warner Archive titles to come out. Anyway, here we've got a few art cards. And then we have an advert for other premium titles. This one in particular promotes Dracula AD 1972. And this one goes up to number 102, which is Satanic Rites of Dracula. And inside we have some artwork. And then we finally move on to the Hitchcock films. So the first one we have is Suspicion with Cary Grant and Joan Fontaine. This is the last Hitchcock film with Cary Grant I needed. I've got all the 4 films he did with Cary Grant now. This is from 1941. And it's a really, really good film. This really overlooked. Cary Grant sort of played a bastard in this, which is something you don't really see from Cary Grant, especially in the 4 films he did with Hitchcock. He's pretty much the villain of the story, but it's fairly ambiguous again. But it's still a really good film. I definitely would recommend it. It's not one of Hitchcock's finest films, but I still think it's really good. Yep, and here's the disc. And inside we have smart cards. a poster. I'll get that into frame. But that's one of the that's a reproduction poster. And then we have an advert for premium titles. So this one is for mainly advertises Badlands, and this one goes up to number 60, which is the Last Picture Show. And then we have the ultraviolet code, which feel free to use that because it won't work because it expired back in December 2019. With the premium collection, they've started reissuing a lot of the older titles to get rid of the ultraviolet codes, but these Hitchcock films still have the codes in, which because I believe it was in 2020, I think it was, when they finally did away with it. Which, one thing I always find stupid about the ultraviolet codes is they always have to have expiration dates, and I don't know why. Because the thing is, what about if you buy it down the line and the code's expired? You're fucked. The disc still works, but it's just daft. No wonder people don't redeem them because they're always fucking expired. But inside we have some inside artwork. Next one is I Confess. Another one of Hitchcock's sort of lesser regarded works. It's very good. It's not one of my favourite Hitchcock films, but it's definitely a really good one. This is from 1953. And here are the discs. So we have the DVD and the Blu Ray. Some inside artwork. And then we have a few post art cards. And then we have the same advert for the premium collection. This one goes up to Last Picture Show. And then we have an ultraviolet code as well, which feel free to use that because it won't work because it expired back in June 2019. And then the final one is The Wrong Man from 1956. A really interesting film because this is based on a true story. The first Hitchcock film based on a true story, and I believe the only one that's directly based on one. I know Norman Bates was loosely based on serial killer Ed Gein, but that story's fictionalized. But the Ed Gein story isn't, but the story of Psycho is fictional. And of course, let's not forget about the bird attacks of 1960, where pigeons were going around pecking people's eyeballs out. Joking, of course. But yeah, this is a really, really good film. Another really overlooked one. The story, it's the true events. The story it's based on is actually really quite mundane. There's a lot more interesting stories you could pick, but Hitchcock made it work, made it really, really suspenseful and really, really intriguing as well. But yeah, it's a really, really good film, and I definitely would recommend it. Here's the inside. So here we have the Blu-ray and the DVD. Some inside artwork. Some art cards as well. The same advert that goes up to Last Picture Show. And then we have the ultraviolet code, which feel free to use that because it won't work because it expired back in June 2019. But yeah, I'm hoping that HMV do bring out more premium titles, because one of the ones I'd love to see on the premium collection is Stage Fright. Stage Fright came out on Blu-ray like a few months back on the Warner Archive collection in America, but that Blu-ray's really, really expensive, to import. So I might get it on DVD at some point, but I'm just hoping that HMV will soon put it out on the premium collection. But yeah, that is it. That is everything. And till next time, so long for now.